Hi guys, Lloyd Pattison from Gunshots here at the Northern Shooting Show with Heather and Lauren from the Durham Police Firearms section. I see a lot of people on Facebook and on forums asking questions about getting their first shotgun certificate or firearm certificate, and often people who are actually experienced firearms owners who just have daft questions. And I thought now would be a perfect time to catch up with these two, who I've dealt with in the past. They've definitely been in my house. For obviously official reasons. And I thought we'd just maybe catch up and talk to them, get some daft questions out and be a bit of a guide for you guys. So I thought we'd start with just as a first timer. Imagine I'm a new shotgun certificate applicant. What's the process? What do I do?
A new shotgun certificate applicant would normally fill in an application form, which you can access either online, so via our website. You would fill it in, fill all your details in. If it's for a shotgun, normally if you want it, you can install your cabinet prior to see if your application's been approved. You don't have to do that. Durham normally recommend that you don't, just in case obviously the application is refused. You would normally, if it's the shotgun application, you wouldn't have any guns anyway, so you wouldn't need to fill that bit in. You need to sign your declaration form, read through all the guidance notes and everything like that. You would need one referee, so that would be someone who you've known for at least 2 years personally. You would have to know them in a personal sort of manner, not a professional manner.
Sure.
They can't be a registered firearms dealer. They can't be a serving police officer or a retired police officer. And they also can't be a member of your family.
Right.
So it can't be an uncle or something like that. It has to be somebody like a friend or even someone who you work with who you've known more for 2 years, but you sort of have to know them on that personal level. What you would do is you would look at the fees. So we would give you a fee form as well. That should be on the application pack, which if it's for a shotgun grant, it's £79.50. Durham, you can pay either by a cheque, postal order or cash. You would submit that into our department. We would get that back, log it onto our system, which is the National Firearms System. It's a national system for all the forces. Log it on, do some checks, which the checks would be done and run through the police systems. They would be done on yourself, so as a person, and they would also be done on anybody else who lives in that address. So we would normally ask you to provide the details, so names, dates of birth of people who live in that address. The checks are mainly just focused on if there's any criminal convictions, there would be if there's any intelligence or anything like that. Safeguarding, domestic issues, there's a lot of stuff on there. We even do the speeding checks as well. Right. So a thing with an application form, what we tell people is if you have any convictions, even if it's a caution or it's a spent conviction, as people like to say, it needs to be declared. Yeah. No matter how long ago it was, you need to declare that on your form.
Just be as honest as possible.
Just be as honest as possible. Medical conditions. Don't think it matters. Yeah, if you don't think it matters, it does. Yeah, you know. Medical conditions is another big thing as well. The form does say relevant medical conditions, but we do advise everybody and try and get everybody to say if you've got anything, even if it's high blood pressure or anything like that, you might not think it's relevant. Put everything on there. You may be asked for a medical report, which is obviously it's for you to pay for, the applicant to pay for. We wouldn't pay for that. Once the application is done and all the enhanced checks are done, what would happen is then it would be allocated to one of our inquiry officers, so that would be someone like Lauren. She would come out to your address and visit you, do a little interview with yourself and just ask you about your experience, where you're going to be using the gun, what you're going to be shooting, what you've been doing. So have you been out shooting with anybody? She might contact your referee.
As an FUO, what I would do at that point as well is I would ask you to give me a person who you have shot with, somebody who has seen you shoot. I need a contact number if preferable, preferably someone who is a licence holder themselves, so I can then contact that person and gauge from that person what kind of person you are when you're out handling a gun.
Makes sense.
That would be a thing.
Yeah. Another thing Lauren would probably do is check the security. So if you've installed your cabinet at that point, so she would go check it, see if it's satisfactory, ask you where obviously your keys are going to be. So are they going to be hidden? Are they going to be in a digital locked safe? Just things like that. Once that's done, when the inquiry officer submits their report to say these are all the things that I've checked, I've done my interview with them. If they're happy and they think it's satisfactory and they think that person is a suitable person to hold a shotgun certificate, It would then come back to ourselves, and that would be passed to our supervisors, which would either be the sergeant or the chief inspector, who would then make the decision as to whether that application was refused or it was approved. If it's approved, then champion, you'll get your certificate in the post, need to sign it, just check all the details are correct on it, and then you can go out and buy your shotgun.
So that was an extremely thorough covering of basically the application process. But I wanted to ask you guys a bit more of an interesting question, which is, what are the daft questions that you get all the time? And I see them online all the time. The big one is, of course, you've already covered in terms of whether or not you need your certificate in. But if you guys were doing a standard FEO interview, what does that look like? I mean, what kind of questions are you going to ask me?
Right. So if I just talk you through the FEO interview process, basically after Heather said, after all the checks are done, it'll come to someone like myself to come out and visit you. I'll phone you up, book a time which is suitable for both me and you, if preferable. Obviously, you need to make a bit of leeway there, you know. So we'll make a time that's suitable. I'll meet you at your home address. What we're going to go through is we're going to go through the application form. I'm going to recheck everything that you've already wrote down to make sure that that is still current, as obviously there could be a couple of weeks period from it coming in to me visiting. So we'll go through all that to make sure everything is still current. If it's a grant, of course, you don't have any guns for me to check, but I am going to ask, what guns are you interested in getting? What guns have you seen that you like? What have you used? That kind of thing. I'm going to also ask for a person who's seen you shoot. I want a name, preferably a phone number of that person who was a licensed holder. Quite often someone who you've had lessons from, someone down at the club, someone who's shot for years is a prime example of a good person for that. We do also accept family members on that, so if your dad shoots or your son shoots, you know, we do accept things like that, but it's just someone who I can contact so I can speak to yourself about in your experience. After that, if you do have a cabinet installed, we'll go and have a look at it. So we're talking about good locations for cabinets. Obviously it's out of direct view, so a cabinet on the wall in the sitting room where I can look through your living room window is not acceptable. Perfect examples, but I would say, well, not perfect, but the best examples, I would say, like understairs cupboards.
Yep. That's where mine is.
In the loft, you know, things like that. But it's a solid brick walls. It must be a solid brick wall. No gap between the cabinet and the wall, if preferable. We don't like you to go through something into the wall, just straight to the wall. Yeah. And we get a common question: can I lie my cabinet flat? That's quite a common question. It's too tall. Can I lie it flat? Yes, you can. Just fly it flat and bolt it the same way, as long as it's a solid floor or a solid wall. That's all we're asking, all right? So we check that cabinet. We'd go, like I say, we go through the guns and things, make sure you're going to have a correct security. So if it's section 1, you need your ammunition box as well as your normal cabinet. I talked to you about things like other security in the house. Do you have CCTV? Do you have an alarm? It's not something that I can actually enforce. I can't say that you have to have CCTV and alarm unless you have over 10 guns, and then it is like in the guidance to recommend an alarm. All right, preferably if you have them, it is a good idea, but obviously we can't enforce that legally, you know. We talk about keys. So the 3 options for your keys is either in a digital safe or a combination safe, which is, I would say, pretty much every police force's ideal. Yeah. The second option is keys could be kept on your person, which we all know that could be a little bit queer, you know, if you lose them or anything like that, could be a little bit dodgy. And the third option would be hidden in the house. Hidden in the house, we don't mean in your sock drawer, we don't mean in the odds and sods drawers, I would call it, in the kitchen. We mean somewhere that is significantly out of sight, out of mind. So I would have to come and search your house for hours to find that. That's the kind of thing we're looking for. I mean, I know people that's had them under floorboards, we've had them behind the tiles, you know, all sorts of different kinds of weird and wonderful places, but they're the kind of places that we want. Next to the cabinet isn't great, you know. We do want them all
just
like,
on a hook,
yeah, we've had to change ones, haven't we? We've had it, so yeah, out of sight, out of mind is the best policy for that. After I've done the interview with yourselves and we've gone through everything, we've checked your cabinet and all this and that, I would then write myself a report, and the report basically details everything I've spoke to you about. It doesn't really have anything from me personal in there. It's just literally, has he covered the criteria, yes or no, or she? Has he or she covered the criteria, yes or no? And as Heather said, it goes back to a supervisor, sergeant, chief inspector, that kind of person to make a final decision.
And what's the most common thing that people forget to send in with their application?
A lot of people forget to send in their money and we can't process it without the money. Photographs, that's another really common thing. It used to be 4 passport sized photographs, whereas now it is only 1. There is no stipulation that it has to be, you know, like from a camera box, I don't know what you call them, photo booth, yeah. They don't have to be from a photo booth. You could take the photograph yourself, but if it's a little bit blurry, it's not going to look great on your certificate, so we ask for a good quality.
Plain background, not smiling, just like a passport photo, right?
Plain background, not smiling. I mean, if you have a little bit of a You know, we're going to be all right with that, but no cheesy grins on there, you know what I'm saying? So sign the back of that. I would suggest you date it. Print, sign and date on the back of that and send it in.
Okay. And any other really common questions that you guys get that you want to, a little bit of advice for?
Really common questions.
How long does it take
Yeah,
normally
how long
to
does it
process
take?
an application, which we don't have a set amount of time in Durham, which we say your application is processed. It basically goes on. Everybody is done on an individual case. There is no sort of set procedure in place. There's no criteria. It is basically done on your individual basis, and you are looked at as an individual.
Sure.
You're not stereotyped or anything like that. It is yourself. So an application can take 1 month, it could take 2 months. It just completely depends on who that person is and what your personal circumstances are, and if you are a suitable person to have a gun, basically. So when all the checks are done, when everything's done, it could take a month, it could take 6 months. It just completely depends. And as well, what people's got to understand is that sometimes we have to gather information from partner agencies. So we can have them from the NHS or from GPs. Sometimes we might take...
Because we're not responsible for their time scales at the surgery if we're waiting for a GP report, you know.
So sometimes
that's a factor that contributes.
So it might take a bit longer, but it's not actually ourselves. It's because we are waiting for information which is going to support your case, basically, and make sure that we are issuing a certificate to somebody who is suitable to hold one. So it might take a bit longer, but sometimes it isn't always ourselves that it's taking the time, basically.
I've seen anywhere from like a month up. I mean, I normally say 6 to 10 weeks to people when they ask me, because I think that's realistic. But I've seen them turn around much faster.
It depends.
I mean, we can, in the scheme of things, if the work is flowing well in the office and we haven't got, because we do have peaks still, of course, as you'll understand, there is periods where for this 6 month we are absolutely stowed off, you know.
Is it like coming up to game season or anything daft like that? Or?
Quite, and lambing season tends to die because people tend to forget, you know, things like that. We do have peaks and troughs in the system, but that happens everywhere, you know. But we still try and work with our processes and keep everything moving at a steady rate. But like Heather said, if it's down to our GP, quite often we might phone you and say, look, this is what we're waiting for. Can you chase them up?
Sure.
Can you give them a nudge from your end, you know, because then it's obviously it's one less job for us, but it's also letting us get the other stuff done in the background that you can't actually do yourself.
Absolutely, that's fantastic.
That's how I would say,
Well, listen, guys, that's really, really useful. Thanks very much for talking to me today, and hopefully this is useful for you guys too. More opportunity for you guys to get your applications in a fit state. All right, thanks very much, guys.
No problem.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.